We are men. We are warriors.
We are dads.
Dads with a purpose. Dads with an edge. We sharpen our skills so we can show up best for others. We have one shot in life to be a dad. Why not make it epic?
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Dad Edge Podcast. I'm Larry Hagner, your host and founder of this show. Welcome to our Wednesday Q&A. Hope everybody's having an amazing week, and we're going to get started right away. So we have some men on today. Questions around, we've got a professional question. I know that much. The other questions I'm not really sure about. So we're actually going to get started today with a professional question from a listener. And I'm just going to bat this around with some of our guys who are on today. And this is anonymous. So here is the email. I've been struggling with my job, specifically deciding if I should leave. I'm not fulfilled at work. It causes me a ton of stress. And most of all, I feel it's limiting myself from pursuing the greater calling, business and entrepreneurship. I'm working on an exit strategy, but I don't have another job lined up. We have savings, so I know I could get by financially if I quit today, but I feel I need to stick it out, especially because of our health insurance and my employer. But the other side of it too is that my lack of passion and motivation results in less than stellar work performance from me, which I feel guilty about. I also worry about my boss will realize this and fire me. I really like the company and I respect my boss, but it doesn't motivate me to do the work that I know I should. So with all of that on my mind, my question is this: when do I know it's time to leave that job that I'm unfulfilled in? So I'll answer this one first. And then we actually have on today's podcast, we have on Mr. John Wiley, who is actually one of our team captains for our business call team. And what I'd like to do is kick this one over to him. So John, I can answer it first unless you want to answer it first.
No, I'll jump in.
Cool.
I'm actually doing a lot of consulting with people in very similar situations. So this kind of fits perfectly in what I'm talking with my clients with right now. So I would say, first of all, stick with the job. And you need to really kick ass there as much as you can, more for yourself than for your employer. So you know you're doing a good job, because when you depart, when the timing is right, you depart and go work into your other venture, you want to know that you can put the work in to get it done. As far as finding out what it is or when it is, I think what I did to pivot with my business this year, and it's taken some time, is I went back to my career and I looked at all the things that I've done, which was a wide variety of stuff I won't get into, but it was, I look back on a lot of things as failures. When I reviewed it from where I am now, is I had a lot of successes, and I looked at the successes and what really excited me. And that's where I got more direction with my business and getting and working with startup companies, people making pivots such as this person's concern right now, which I did with my career in my life. I made a pivot about 4 years ago to go independent. It was great at the beginning. COVID didn't help, got really bumpy, and then I flipped it around, and now I'm just totally excited to get up and get to work every day. So stay with the job, look back on what you've been doing in your career, what excites you, and see if there's some purpose in that.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a loaded question for a lot of us, right? Because especially now in this day and age, a lot of people are really excited to do a side hustle of some sort, and nowhere in human history has it been so easy to actually develop a side business than it is now. The internet has made it very, very easy to create WooCommerce, to create Amazon stores, to create coaching businesses, service business, even to do marketing for a business that you might already currently have. But at the same time, I think that there's this feel out there that if you're an entrepreneur, you have to burn the bridges and you have to just jump off the cliff and build a ladder on the way down. I had a guest on not too terribly long ago. Well, actually, it was quite some time ago now. Grant Sabatier, who wrote the book Financial Freedom, and he talks a lot about the strategy behind leveraging a full-time job to create a business. Now, not necessarily doing that in an unethical way, right? As long as you're using your own time to create your business, that's an ethical thing. Now, if you're leveraging your full-time business to basically not show up and create a business, that's a different story. But a lot of entrepreneurs these days, especially I would say millennials, they have this view that if they're not burning the bridges, jumping off the cliff without a plan, then they're not living up to whatever expectation that the rest of the world feels that they need them to be, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, I think it's really, really important that if you own a business or if you're starting a business, you have to have a strategy. And one of the things that I'll share with you guys is when I first wrote the book, The Dad Edge, I'll never forget, I think I sold $400 in books the first month it was out. And I literally thought like that was my ticket to leave my full-time job at the time. And one of my mentors, I told my mentor this, and he said, nothing would be more devastating to your marriage than if you decided to do that. You have to have a plan. You absolutely have to have a plan. So the answer that I would give this gentleman is, if the work that you're doing doesn't bring you to life, that's fine. And if you want to create the work that makes you come alive, then do that, but do it in a very strategic and methodical way to where, you can exit when you want to in a financially responsible way versus like, I'm just going to leave and hope for the best, because that could be financially devastating to you, to your family. And plus, if you leave a job that is beneficial, that compensates you well, you could be doing a huge disservice. I want to bounce this off anybody else. Tommy, you put something in the chat. Go for it.
Yeah, man, we got this thing we like to do, and it's our core values, right? I'm sorry to hear that things are going on at work, and I would say before you really do anything, you measure how this is, where this is hitting you, right? Is it hitting you in a sense of, this is just very frustrating and just a bunch of things, and I just don't have time to do anything else? Or is it really hitting you in your core values, right? I'm actually been going through a lot myself, and I can tolerate work. I can step up as we feel as fathers, right? And do the hours and do the time. But it is in my power to make sure that when I leave work, that the person I am is that person that I'm going to be, right? I need to make sure I step up and I'm spending moments with my family. I'm doing all these things, right? And if your work is getting in the way of that, and if those are your values, then you really, you need to consider a shift. But I would separate the two, man, if you can. Just like, is this a time issue or is this a heart issue? Just work away from there.
Anybody else? Thank you, Tommy. Anybody else want to share some thoughts on this one? All right, we're going to move on to the next question. Dave, you have the floor, my friend.
All right, thanks, Larry. My question is about, I have a very close friend of mine that I grew up with, and the last couple of conversations I've had with him, he's mentioned a lady that he works with, that he's kind of been flirting with, and basically having thoughts of straying outside of his marriage, and almost like in a way that like he's kind of looking for my approval. And, both times I've basically tried to steer the conversation back to, well, what can you do to improve your marriage with, your wife? And it just kind of, I guess I'm looking for advice, or I know I'm not going to be able to make decisions for him or anything, but it bothers me that, he's leaning that way, and I'm not really sure how to guide him, or even if it's my place to do that. So it's kind of what's been on my mind.
Ooh, buddy. Yeah. So anytime, if you guys ever noticed that anytime we're about ready to do something that maybe isn't in line with the right thing to do, that if we have approval from other people, it'd be like, oh yeah, that's justified. That's okay. That the person suddenly feels better about doing it, right? Is this individual, does he have kids?
No kids. No.
No kids. How long they been together?
10 plus years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're married, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Just from an outsider perspective, how do you view the relationship?
I mean, I went to visit them one time and it was a lot of arguing and not a lot of close connection for sure. And I don't know, I don't see him every day, so I don't know if that's continued, but I get the feeling that it's, definitely a lot of issues within the marriage that need to be worked on, in my opinion.
Just out of curiosity, just so we have a little bit more specifics, why not just end the marriage?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's probably, all the things that go along with that, the hard stuff that makes it happen. But
yeah,
I totally agree. It's like, if you're going to, definitely handle your current relationship first before you go out and do anything else,
Yeah, exactly. Let me share this insight because it's obviously something that we've noticed and we've learned within the group and within the mission we're doing. And that is usually when people want to have extracurricular activities outside the marriage, it has everything to do with their needs aren't getting met. So the three basic needs of a woman is to feel seen, heard, and safe. If a woman's not getting those needs met, she feels pretty lonely, and she usually will go get those needs met somewhere else, right? A man's three basic needs are to feel respected, appreciated, and validated. When those needs aren't getting met, he might go outside the marriage and find something, right, to get those needs met. And a lot of this has to do with how do we operate within the marriage? Like, how do we go about this, right? And unfortunately, and I'm not sure all the details and all the ins and outs of your friend, but a lot of times what happens is a lot of people get these walls of emotional resentment built up, right? If those needs are not getting met. And then unfortunately they're quiet about it. They don't communicate it, or if they do communicate it, it's not heard, or it's not seen, or it's not appreciated if you're a man, or it's not respected if you're a man. So what do we do in that situation, right? The most effective thing that you can do to ward off anything like this is go get oil changes in your marriage. In other words, preventative maintenance. We wouldn't think to go 25,000 miles in our car without getting an oil change, but we'll do that within our marriages. And then we wonder, why is the engine blowing up, right? Why is the engine blowing up? It's because you haven't done any preventative maintenance. You haven't done any work to make sure that those things are not happening. Communication is another big one. Men and women were wired very, very differently when it comes to communication. Men are problem solvers. Women usually are not. They use communication as a form of connecting. When men communicate with another man, it's usually because, hey, I need you to advise me. I need you to help me, right? Versus I'm just trying to connect with you. Right. I want to bat this around. We've got Josh on, we got Justin, we got Carlos, Tommy. Who's got some advice?
I can chime in.
Cool. And then Tommy.
Yeah. So I'll channel a little bit of Joe Bailey on this one and talk about the fact, sexual sin is one of the most pervasive things out there, be it infidelity or pornography even. And I can tell you, turning to porn rather than your marriage is incredibly destructive. Turning to someone else is 1,000 times more destructive. Now, again, like David said, or Larry, like we've been saying, it's kind of a two-part question, because the marriage itself is one part of that question, and the other person is the other part of that question. Do they want to stay in the marriage? Is the marriage healthy? And if it's not, and they need to separate, like, do it on good terms. Don't do it through having sex with someone else. But I can tell you, looking outside of marriage and finding someone, it doesn't just destroy the marriage, it destroys who you are inside. Like, it will eat away at you, and that is something that's incredibly difficult to come back from.
Yeah, man. It's like a boil that just festers, right? Tommy, how about you, man?
Yeah, really, really tying two things together that I appreciated from both Larry and Joshua there, man. Larry was speaking on, the ending of the marriage, and it got me to thinking about something that Joshua just said, and that was with the destruction of your marriage, right? In any given situation, if for you, if this person were to come to me, the best way I can relate to is at a certain point in my life, I felt like I was just destroying my marriage, right? And it was almost like I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know if I needed to just be like learn more about myself or just simply step away, in a sense, right? And it's a very scary thought. But it's scarier to think that I could have destroyed worlds, right? I could have destroyed in a sense, my wife's uh, love for all kinds of things, not just me. And I would say, like, hey, if somebody were to come to me like this, it would be like, do you think this is going to be constructive or destructive, right? And not only for your relationship, but if the person is seemingly selfish in some ways, to think about what this is going to do to you further down the road, the things that you're going to feel and regret maybe, and all those things, because this need that this person may want to fill, like Joshua said, it's very temporary, and if it doesn't become temporary, it is far more destructive to just look back and convince ourselves that this is what we need to feel better about ourselves, to feel better about our situation, and that's very dangerous. And so constructive or destructive, right?
I'll add to that real quick. I mean, fortunately, it sounds like there's no kids in the mix, and that's a great thing. I can tell you the damage that this causes, having an affair and getting a divorce and dealing with all of the repercussions. We think, oh, well, it's, this is temporary. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. But you don't think long term. You don't think, how much damage is this going to cause to me? How much damage is this going to cause to her? And I can tell you, from living through growing up a child of divorce, that damage from a divorce, from the infidelity, ripples for decades. It ripples for generations. It's something that we don't fully realize how destructive it can be. We're just in the moment trying to find happiness and joy, and without thinking of the consequences that are going to come about from it. So, I mean, if somebody was to come up to me and almost ask permission, I mean, my first thing was, just don't. It will destroy your marriage, and it will destroy you in the process.
Yeah, man. So I think it really boils down to make sure that, I mean, obviously this could be, so Dave, I don't know if this helps at all, right? I mean, this guy sounds like there's a couple different things that could be happening here, right? He could be looking for validation, right? Which is one of those three needs, right? That he's trying to fulfill, maybe through you as his friend, of saying, yeah, man, this makes sense to me. Like, why wouldn't you? The marriage is kind of on the rocks. Or a lot of times too, sometimes what we do is we cast out a line, right, as friends, to be like, hey man, can you save me from myself here? Why don't you tell me that this is wrong? So I know, so I now have confirmation that maybe what I'm thinking and feeling is it feels right to me because this isn't working and I feel lonely and I want to feel better and I want to have a connection with somebody else. But at the same time, like that iron sharpens iron friendship, we could be giving them maybe different strategies. So with that being said, what would you tell this guy based on what we talked about today?
Yeah, no, I mean, that all makes a ton of sense. And basically what I've tried to tell him, but I haven't been as direct, just that I feel he needs to, or I would strongly recommend you deal with your current relationship before you even think about doing anything outside. And while we were talking and what you were just saying just now about kind of looking for approval, it made me realize when we were talking as well that he told me he had, kind of talked about it with two of our other friends, because we grew up together, two of our other friends, and both of those friends are friends that I know are, would give him more of an approving answer. You know what I mean? So I think I love the advice that, or the information about, he probably is throwing out a line there that, probably knows it's not right and maybe not aligning with his values. And, I guess I'm one of the three friends that probably didn't give him the answer he was seeking, so it's tough.
Hey, how is your relationship now with this? Right. I asked because there's a clear boundary here, right? That needs to be set. There's there's something to be said in the power of setting boundaries with our friends that do these things kind of us, because you seem to have a love and a caringness for him. If he's able to approach you like this, and you can speak some trust into him by setting the boundary of, hey, you put me in a very uncomfortable position, and you put me in, and you can demonstrate to him this is the kind of situation that you're in. I mean, this is a small dose of the chaos that you're experiencing, right? That he's going to experience a much larger one. And to set that boundary with him, if you can't bring this kind of thing to me, unless you're willing to have a hard conversation about it, because now this is sitting on your shoulders, and that's completely unfair. So how is your relationship right now with him?
Can I piggyback on that a bit? Hey, Tommy, you're spot on that, brother. I had a real life situation where my best friend, I knew him since kindergarten. So he was my best man in my wedding. He had an extramarital affair that ruined his marriage, and he pointed all the blame on his wife. My friendship slowly waned because my wife refused to see him. So like to Tommy's point, that me being his friend put me in kind of that same category as him, that I might cheat, right? You're around the same people, you're similar to the people you hang out with. And so that basically, I haven't talked to him in years. That put such a wall between me and him. So he's damaging more than his relationship by doing that. And if they don't have any kids, then seek counseling and then just pull the plug.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a tough situation, but yeah.
I mean, the good news is that there are no kids involved, so the divorce could probably be pretty clean, right? You throw a kid in there, whew, things get hairy and crazy really, really quick. So
yeah, one last thing I was thinking about is I didn't think about it when we were having the conversation, but something that maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys could tell me if this is a good idea or not, but I've been divorced for a few years, and I was on the receiving end of, infidelity, and it was not all her fault. It was bad communication kind of drove her in that direction. So I take a lot of that responsibility, but I do have that in my past, and maybe I could kind of tell him how it made me feel. And, I much would have rather had our relationship end, and then, then she does whatever she wants. But yeah, I mean, I'm still dealing with that damage, even though my feelings for her are long in the past, So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know the statistics on affairs, but I'm sure they're pretty darn high, and the impact that those will have on not only the person who's doing the deed, the person who we are, I guess, defying trust against, and then the friendships and all that stuff that go along with it. I want to get to another question here that was fascinating. I got and this is a great question to actually go around the bend on, because it's got me curious. I had a listener. He actually emails me frequently. Never have talked to him live, but he'll email me questions on kind of a regular basis, and just really random questions. And I'll email him back, and I just chat with him here and there. But it's one of the questions that he recently emailed me is, what's the most unexpected benefit that you've gained from all the personal development growth that you've put in? So all the work that I've put in with personal development growth, what are some of the unexpected benefits? And what I'd really like to do is bat this around for any of you guys. Everybody on this particular Q&A is involved in the Dad Edge Alliance. You've probably have read books, you've listened to podcasts, maybe you've seen counselors, maybe you have coaches or mentors. But everybody who's in our community, man, they're very, very curious to constantly learn, to constantly sharpen the sword, to grow well beyond where we're at today. I would say this, and then I'm going to hand it over to anybody who wants to virtually raise their hand or just speak up. Personal development work has saved every single part of my entire life. Before I started doing personal development work, my marriage was mediocre at best. I didn't know how to connect with my wife. I didn't know how to communicate with her. I wanted to. Here's the funny thing too, without doing the personal development work or actually learning the skills, my intentions were there. So I had every desire, every intention, and I really was motivated to learn. But that doesn't mean that I was actually learning it. Just because I wanted to do it, that doesn't mean that I was actually executing. But I would say this, personal development work, some of the biggest benefits have been getting very, very clear on what to do and when to do it within my relationships. So for instance, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, what are the 4 elements of an extraordinary marriage? I wouldn't have been able to tell you. I probably would have just been like communication, sex, intimacy, connection. But here's the funny thing. I really didn't understand what each one of those things truly meant or how to operate any of them. I thought I kind of did, but I was very unclear. It was very fuzzy to me. So the 4 elements of an extraordinary marriage are your self-care, the partnership, the friendship, and the lovers. And then those 4 pillars, they sit on a foundation of ultimate connected communication to elevate communication and intimacy. And there are skill sets within communication, like Chris Voss teaches us about tactical empathy. How do we empathize with our kids? How do we empathize with our wives? How do we communicate with them? How do we create an environment? Another skill set, creating an environment of psychological safety to where the people that we're speaking with are under our same roof. They feel safe to come to us with ideas, to come to us with questions or concerns without feeling shame or guilt or a lashback in any way, shape, or form. The other thing too is really understanding my core values. Core values is something that intuitionally, like the way core values sort of show up is like, I don't know what it is about this, but it doesn't feel right. My gut tells me it doesn't feel right. That's our intuition, but it's also our core values. And there are times where we operate that in with relationships. We operate that within our workplaces. Like we've been in friendships or even dating a girl or whatever. And we're like, I don't know what is it about this chick, but it doesn't feel right to me. Or I don't know what it is about this woman, but it feels really right to me. So when we understand what our core values are, and that's another self-development lesson that we can learn or an exercise that we can go through to really flesh those things out, is understanding what it is that we truly value. And then the most important thing too is running decisions through that. So like my core values, I'll end with this and I'm going to kick it over to our other guys. My core values are environment, humor, adventure, health, deep, meaningful connection, family, integrity. So, I'll give you an example of making decisions through those core values. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what my core values were. But deep, meaningful connection, environment, and family are 3 of those, 3 out of the 7. So conversation that I had with my 15-year-old, this was a few months ago, we are having this conversation on our back patio, which we just invested in a back patio project where we have like a fire pit outside and speakers, and we have a big gathering space where our kids and their friends and our family can make memories and just hang out together. And my son was sitting there with all of his friends and our family, and my younger son had all of his friends there. We had like 17 kids over here, eating pizza, playing music, throwing bags, the whole 9 yards. And my son sat next to me and he goes, "Hey, Dad, when are you going to buy a nice car?" And for those of you guys in the audience who don't know, I drive a 2016 Nissan Altima. I paid $12,000 for the car. And I was like, "Why do you ask that?" He goes, "Well, so-and-so just bought a Corvette. And then so-and-so over here just bought a Corvette. And so-and-so's dad has an Audi. When are you going to buy a nice car?" And I'm like, yeah, probably never. Not anytime soon. I was like, "If you really want to know the truth, you're sitting in my Corvette right now." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "You're sitting in my Corvette," meaning he was sitting outside next to me on this patio set. And now the funny thing is the patio thing was way less expensive than my neighbor's Corvette. And he's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, I don't value stuff. I value deep human connection. I value family and our environment." I was like, "So I spend money on things that I value, not things that I don't." I was like, "So would I like a nice car? Sure. Is it really important to me? No." I was like, "Let me ask you this. Let me give you a question. Would you rather take a ride in our family Corvette where it's just me and you and nobody else? Or would you rather look around? All your friends are here. We're playing music. People are eating pizza. We're throwing bags. We're having a fire pit. Would you rather have a Corvette or would you rather have this?" And he's like, "Good point. I'd rather have this." So that's where, doing personal development work and how meaningful it can be and the things that we can get out of it. We learn a lot about ourselves, and we can make really good decisions based on the lessons that we've learned. We got a few hands up here. Josh, you're first, and then I'm going to get to Dave.
Yeah. So, you covered a lot there, and yeah. So the only thing I would add is personal growth. Just like the struggles that we go through, and sharing and being vulnerable can have incredible power. Seeing other people grow as well is incredibly powerful too. Going on the personal journey of personal growth and everything, and seeing others do the same makes me realize I'm not alone in this, and there are a lot of people out in the world that really want better for their lives, and they want the best that they can do. And that gives me a much different perspective on the people around me. And it makes me want, I can look back and see the growth that I've seen in my own life. And it makes me want to reach out and to serve others to help them get to the place that they want to be at. So for me, it's just been this huge kind of perspective shift on the people around me. And certainly there are people that don't necessarily want it, but there are so many people out there. The self-help industry is billions of dollars. So there's so many people out there that are looking for growth, and they want better. And that's an incredible thing. And to be able to share in that is incredible too.
Such a good answer, man. Thanks for sharing that. Dave, what do you got?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this question. This one hits home for me. I've pretty much, my life got flipped upside down, 3 years ago, and I split up with my now ex-wife, and it just put me into personal growth overload for pretty much 3 years straight. And I never really thought about this question, but it's a great question. It's something I never thought of until now. But one of the biggest unexpected benefits for me has been similar to Josh. It's the ability to set an example for my friends and family around me, and kind of regain a leadership role in my life with my friends and family, and really that ability to help other people. Like for me, the last, at least the first couple of years were all about, it's pretty selfish. Like I was just trying to get as much personal growth into it as possible. And, this past year, it's the byproduct has been really wanting to help others, because it's had such a profound impact on myself. And I want that for other people. I know there's so many people out there, a lot of my friends, most of my friends, I feel, and most people in general, just, I think ultimately aren't as happy or fulfilled in their lives as they can be. And I just want that for people. And so this has really opened my eyes up to start taking steps to be able to do that for people. So I love it.
Very cool. Tommy Morgan, what do you got, man?
Yeah, it's right on line with everything everybody's saying here, man. I really did not, I came into this alliance for just because I was crippled in a sense. Like I felt wounded and hurt, and I knew I was hurting others. And it's amazing because I after just a few months, man, I discovered that growth has just not only mended those wounds, but it has allowed me to just help others mend theirs too, man. Like I love what I can give to this world, right? I love the confidence that I didn't know I was going to have coming out of this. Like I had no idea that in a sense of leadership, I was going to be in a sense of leadership, from striving to thriving, so really appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Well, gentlemen, that's all we got time for today, guys. Hey, if you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you give it a screenshot and put it on your Instagram story. I'll reshare it, tag you as well. Also, as you guys have heard, we have our Dad Edge Alliance members on this particular group. And as you can see, these guys are humble. They're hungry. We have emotional IQ, but we are hungry to learn new lessons, new skill sets, not only learn them ourselves, but contribute them to each other and to the world. If this is something that you guys have been on the fence about, you want to join us over at the Alliance, head on over to thedadedge.com/alliance, fill out a quick application so one of our team members can get in touch with you and schedule an interview with you. And just to be sure that we can help you where you're at, we can elevate your life and live this legendary life that we're all talking about. All right, gentlemen, have an amazing week, and we'll see you on Friday for Fierce Friday. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. And for more episodes and resources that will give you an edge, head on over to gooddadproject.com.